Welcome to Straight Talk with Carly Alyssa Thorne. And I have with me a dear friend back. I love talking to her, Catherine Ryan Hyde. She is the most prolific writer I've known in a long time. And she is the original script writer or book writer, if you will, of the movie Pay It Forward. So the movie Pay It Forward came from her book, from her script. So I am so excited to have you back and talk about Paying It Forward and all your wonderful new books and see your animals around you. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I wrote the novel that the movie was based on. There was a screenwriter in between.
Ah, gotcha.
Just to give credit where credit is due.
Yes, exactly. We don't want to cause any problems.
And the minute you went live, both the animals got up and walked away.
We'll call them back later. Don't you worry. So
I think my little dog heard a sound that concerned her. She doesn't like beeps and bangs, and she'll get up and leave the room if something makes a little computerized noise.
I welcome animals joining us. So first, I'd love for you to start with, what was your inspiration behind originally writing Paying It Forward, and how did all that come about? And let's start with, even before that, what was your inspiration behind the title? Because for me, there's always a great story behind the title, and then obviously everything else kind of revolves around that.
I don't know if there's a great story behind the title. I struggled for a title. But I think it actually at one time came from real life, because I'm remembering a time when there was a guy down at the local gas station who had a pair of jumper cables, and he was waiting for somebody who was willing to use their battery to give him a jump. And I said, yeah, all right, I got a minute. It was one of those situations where it was very obvious that he was like a kind of a money businessman. He was like up here and I was down here. So after he jumped it, he kept trying to give me money. And I kept trying to make him understand, I didn't do this so you would give me money. He wasn't getting it. He's like, if you don't want money, what do you want, kind of a thing. He didn't literally say that, but that was the thing. And as I'm remembering it, what I finally did is I said, no, I don't want you to pay me back. Just pay it forward to somebody else. And then he's like, oh, I get it. It's one of those things. And I thought, well, if that's what it takes to break through, then maybe that's what you have to do. It's a very simple twist on paying it back, which I think is why sometimes people will say, oh, there was something about that in a book by, tell you the truth, his name escapes me at the moment, a science fiction writer. Or they'll say there used to be a college football coach who used to say pay it forward. And I say, well, of course there was, because there are no new ideas under the sun, and it's such a simple twist on paying it back. So I don't know if there's a great story behind the title, but I do know that I had someone pay it forward to me, and by that I don't mean that they used that phrase or that it was like a concept that was already in place. I just had a couple of strangers stop and do me a really enormous favor, and it involved the engine of my car being on fire. And a couple of men pulled over and took a blanket out of their trunk and just literally smothered this engine fire by hand. And later, after the fire department showed up, just a couple minutes later after the fire department showed up, I turned around to thank them, and while I was busy talking to the firefighters, they'd packed up and driven away. So basically, they inspired this concept two ways. One, by doing an enormous favor for me, a total stranger. And two, not hanging around so that I could find out what I could do so that I felt like that debt was repaid in some way.
So you brought up something that I think is really a poignant thing, because you're saying the first man, like intuitively from what he was educated in, how he, his experience in life thus far was that if I do something for somebody else, then I have to do something for somebody else. And then you have the other experience where the person did it just because they chose to and for no other reason. Yeah. And I think that's the part in the shift in the culture that we need to start to get to now. That I think the whole paying it forward experience, at least the way I've gotten around to just my way of educating or motivating, inspiring, or teaching it, is the ripple effect. Because for me, it's not so much the act that I gave to you, it's the fact that I do it, because for no other reason than because I choose to do it. Not that I'm keeping score that if I gave you a Christmas card this year and you didn't give me one, oh my God, you're never getting one again. I just did it because I care about you, and that's something I just chose to do. However, I also know that somehow, somewhere, just because to me everything's interconnected, that experience of me giving you that is going to create a ripple in your life somehow, or ripple out in another way to somebody else. So for me, that's what the whole pay it forward or paying it forward movement is about. It's about doing things because we choose to from our heart, not expecting anything in return, and just realizing in some shape or form we're impacting the greater whole, impacting the ripple effect. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a couple things. I know that when people ask me why I think, I mean, obviously I don't know why those men stopped, but when people ask me why I think they stopped, I think they stopped and helped me because I so obviously needed someone to. And I honestly think that in a world where we're all human beings, that's very often enough. We help someone because they need us to. And somewhere in ourselves, who has ever lived to any kind of adult age without knowing the feeling of needing help? I mean, we understand it, so we respond to it. So, I think that's part of it. But, I mean, as far as oh, boy, I hate that thing where a thought just goes out of your head again, because I actually have a lot of thoughts about, I do remember it. When people talk to me about the supposed selfishness of human beings, which frankly I'm not really seeing. I see fear. I see a lot of fear in humans. I don't really see a lot of selfishness. But I think when you were talking about, I choose to do this and I know this is going to start a ripple, I think when back in the old days when Pay It Forward was new and people used to say, well, what about the people who say what's in it for you? Well, to the people who say what's in it for me, which, by the way, are few and far between, I simply say, well, what kind of world do you want to live in? What kind of world do you want? If you want a world with more kindness, clearly you take the world you've got and you put more kindness into it. Well, you get to live in that world just as much as the person you're doing the favor for. So I think we make these contributions to our world because it's our world. Just like if a bunch of people live in a house together, they kind of want to put their heads together on how to make it a nice place to live. It benefits everyone.
Yes. And what I love about our conversation is I really hope this gets people to understand that it is, I hear one of the things I hear all the time is, I don't have enough money. What do I have to offer? I'm just, like you said, you were here in your mind at that point in time. You were here, this person was here. We need to get out of all those boxes, because I tell people all the time, like you and I are having this conversation, you never know who needs to hear your message in that very moment that you're giving it, whatever that message is, because you're right, everybody is at a different plane in learning through whatever their journey is, their experiences or learnings or teachings or failings or whatever it is there for them to learn on some level and to give them a choice point to either learn from their experience and choose something differently or to stay stuck in their cycle, or if you will. So yeah. I really love the fact that we're doing this, because I don't think this message can be out there enough, frankly. And because of those filters we were talking about, you just said, you don't think there's that many people. It's far in between that people are asking, well, if I give you this, what can I do for you?
It's unusual, yeah.
Yes, because, and why I want to bring this up is because thankfully and beautifully, you're such a beautiful person. That's the way you think, and that's what you see. So you don't see the other stuff.
Well,
other people, no, I'm serious.
No,
other
I know
people,
what you mean.
they'll have the blinders on. They already are in this monofocus, or their filter, if you will, is life is tough. I'm a victim. I can't get up and do this. I don't have the resources. I don't have the time. How can I? How can I? How can I?
Proving it over and over.
Yes. So
yeah.
I think people like you and I, and there's so many other thousands of people, yes, when you see someone struggling, be willing to offer that hand. And I'm not talking about a handout, because that doesn't help. Hand up is different than a handout. A handout diminishes somebody, makes them think that you're bigger than them. A hand up is giving them the educational tools or pieces to enable them to actually improve their life in some shape or form.
And money really has nothing to do with it. I can't stress that too strongly.
Exactly.
The thing that started all of this had nothing to do with anybody giving me money. There was no money involved. It was simply quick action on the part of someone who was clearer than I was about what kind of trouble I was in. An awful lot of times what we can give people is attention. It's a moment of attention, And the other thing that I want to really make a strong point about is one of the ways in which I think people get this wrong And this is really the only time I think that I've had a little bit of a glimpse of not my favorite part of human nature, is people will come to me and ask me like really outrageous favors. And say, well, if you believe in paying it forward, you'll do this for me. And I'm sorry, that's not the way it works. That's just not the way it works. Pay it forward is not about someone asking too much of you and you having to say yes. If that was what it was, I don't think the whole thing would work. Pay it forward is about you observe someone who has a problem, and to them, that problem is almost insurmountable. And for you, you think, well, heck, I could do that in no time flat. And it might be you've got money and the person doesn't. It could be that. It could be something like their car is broken down and they have to get 10 miles, which without a car is really a difficult prospect. And if your car is running, it is just nothing for you to take them 10 miles down the road. And you simply decide, hey, okay, this isn't my problem, but you know what? I'm just going to take it on. I'm just going to go ahead and say, hey, I would like to solve this problem for you. So it really does not proceed from demands, because if it does, I think very quickly we get into that human problem where there's too much need and there's only one of us, and we start feeling depleted. So it has to be spontaneous. So I don't ever want people to feel like if somebody comes up to them and says, give me money, that they're not a good pay it forward person if in that instance they don't feel comfortable doing it.
So another thing, I always love that you bring up these really golden nuggets. So you like you just said there, don't do things out of a place of comfort or feel like you have to. You have to generally do it from a place of just because you really want to, because that really is that key piece. And like you said earlier, it's not something huge. It doesn't. Yes, it can be huge. Like you said, it could be monetary. Like you said, sometimes it's just attention. It could just say, hey, I love you. Have I told you that? It could be the hug. It could be, I was at the grocery store the other day, and obviously this person was in their mid-20s, and you could tell they were a little bit struggling, and all this person wanted was baking soda, literally. And so I said to the cash, and she went to use her card, and it declined. Mm-hmm. And that's all she wanted. Literally, that's all she had was baking soda. How much is baking soda? And I said to the cashier, no worries, let her have it. I'll pay for it. And it, and the funny part was, I said that, and the cashier said to the lady, don't worry about it. I've got it taken care of. And the cashier wound up paying for it.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I've done it on multiple occasions where I've been at the grocery store and there's been someone that's been younger or older or senior, and they were out, like, literally their whole, grocery thing has gone through, and it rang up and they were $1 short or something, or $1.25, whatever it was. And I said to the lady, well, instead of, don't bother, trying to find the item this person really desperately, wants or doesn't want to take away. I'm like, don't worry about it. And it was easier for everybody. We didn't have to wait for, all that to go on. And it was $1 or $1.25, whatever the heck that was. So like you said, it has to be in the moment. It has to be that spontaneous thing, because if you're thinking about it too much, you're already in the place of going, well, okay, that person owes me. I gave them 5 referrals. Where's my percentage?
Yeah.
So you have to do it in that moment. You can't be all into this analytical space of doing it.
I heard a story from a Facebook friend that I really liked. Speaking of a small thing becoming a big act that can make big changes, there was a woman in line behind her, someplace, I think it was Starbucks, who was being very difficult and impatient. And so she very quietly paid for the woman's order in advance. Now tell me that's not going to change that person's day, to have her rudeness met with an act of kindness.
Exactly.
That is so unexpected. That is so exactly the opposite of what we expect from our social contract. That I just cannot imagine. I mean, she might have put maybe $3 or $4 into it. I don't know. But can you imagine the difference that's going to make in that woman's day?
Absolutely. And I think doing these things, we don't realize, even though we're not seeking something back, unconsciously, whether we know or not, we are. We feel good in that moment. We feel like, wow, look at the smile on that person's face. Look at the impact I did make. I didn't do it for that reason. However, what people need to understand, that when you do these things, it does come back in some shape or form. Even if we're not asking for it, it just does. So just, go out. And you know this as well as I do. We teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to talk to us. We treat people how to post on our pages. If we have negative, nilly stuff on our pages saying, oh my God, it's another crappy day. I woke up this morning and I bumped my toe. What do you think people are going to do on your page? They're going to moan and complain. Versus if I write on my page, it's a beautiful day. I'm really looking forward to doing some self-relaxation or whatever that is. People are going to know that on my page, this is positive time. It's reality time. However, it's still empowerment. It's positivity. It's education. It's all those things. It's not a place to come, moan and gripe. It's just not. So I think in doing these little things, we teach other people how that they can actually possibly do this for others.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what you're saying is we're setting the tone for our lives all the time.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other things I absolutely love about you is you're just an amazing writer. You have so many books, I can't even name them all. I literally have to go to your website to actually go through. And
I wouldn't want to take a bet that I could sit here and name them all.
Okay, well, so what we're going to do is, first of all, I want you to give us 3 books that out of your plethora of books, that actually really mean something to you, or just something special, and give a little snippet about them. And then we're going to go to your latest book, and hopefully your dog will come join us for it.
Oh, that would be nice. I could always call her, yeah.
So let's
get down to that.
Have you named 3 of them?
Okay, well, the first one that comes to mind is Becoming Chloe, which theoretically is a young adult book, except not so much. It's about a couple of young adults. It's also very mature. I wouldn't put it in the hands of a kid under maybe 14 or 15. Grown-ups seem to like it just fine. And I think one of the reasons I like it, I apologize for the fact that my nose itches. That's what happens when it's allergy season. So hopefully that's not a distraction. I think the reason I like it, other than the fact that I really like and relate to Jordy, the main character, but it's about a couple of street teenagers, who have really seen the downside of life, who have really pretty much seen the worst life has to offer at this point, and they set out to see the world in a different way than they've ever seen it before. And Jordy is trying to prove to Chloe that the world is a beautiful place, even though he's not really even sure that's true. But he sets out to prove it to her anyway. And they end up going out and finding the realistic beauty in the world. They end up going out and finding out that the world is a very unpredictable place. There's Ella. And yet a very beautiful place. So that's the first one that comes to mind. I think maybe another one that jumps up is When I Found You, because I think that's one that people who like Pay It Forward will also like, and that's not to suggest that it's at all the same. None of my books are at all the same as Pay It Forward. That's just very different. It's a concept in a book that I just have not repeated. But it is about an older man, a middle-aged man, who finds a newborn abandoned in the woods. His dog actually finds him. And he simply feels that their lives have crossed for a reason. And he never gives up on this young man, even though his start in life takes him a lot of very bad places. And everybody just abandons this kid for a really good reason. And he just doesn't. He's like that one person in his life who just never gives up on him. And so I think it has a little bit of a sense of that Pay It Forward thing because, well, I don't want to spoil the ending, but you get to kind of see how that pays off, how slowly it pays off, but how dependably it pays off when someone is there for you.
Love it.
And what else? I guess maybe another one would be Take Me With You, which is two novels ago, which is, again, I write a lot of books about people who don't really need to do nice things for each other, but they do. It's about a man who ends up taking somebody else's 2 kids on a summer RV vacation with him. It's a very odd setup as to how he's called upon to do this. And how that bond comes back to him in later years, and just how much it means to all of their lives and how much it changes all of their lives just to have that time to commit to each other. And, you know, it's hard because the novel I'm working on right now, I'm almost done with it, is number 30. So in a sense, I'm taking like 10% of the body of work. Those are the ones that just came to me.
So, do you have a title yet for the one you're working on before we go to Worthy?
Yes, the working title at least is Blythe River, which is the name of a wilderness setting that's extremely important in this work. But other than that, I would say, having not actually finished the draft, it's probably too early to say too much more about it.
Well, I'm always looking forward to your books coming out. So the one I'd love to talk about and see if we can get your wonderful companion to join us for is you just recently wrote a book that has a beautiful cover with beautiful puppy dog eyes, and it's called Worthy.
Well, so, puppy dog eye. It's kind of like we kind of have
the one eye.
Ella, come here. Come here, Ella. Ella. We'll see. Here she comes. Come on, come here. Come here.
Come on, Ella.
Come on. Come on up here. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, right over here. Right over here. No, don't get nervous. Come on. She can hear me talking to someone. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Here, you sit right in front of me. You're more photogenic than I am anyway. Look right into, yeah, there we go. Oh, no, she's like, what, you know, I think she feels a little bit nervous, like, why is the spotlight on me all of a sudden? But, and there she goes. Okay.
So what was your inspiration behind the book Worthy?
You know, I have to be honest and say, with the exception of Pay It Forward, I never really know what my inspirations are for these. My inspiration is that I'm writing 2 books a year now, and when I finish one, it's time to come up with an idea for the other. And, you know, it would be nice if everyone had a story like I was doing so-and-so and this idea. But the truth of the matter is I have gotten to the point where I simply open my imagination, and it's like daydreaming.
Okay, that's brilliant, though. Think about it. I mean, usually I always ask the authors those 2 questions, inspiration and title, because I usually get these marvelous stories. But then again, they're not, they haven't written 30 books. So I can imagine by the time they've gotten to their, 10, 15, they might have less unique stories. So I can understand where you're coming from, and especially for you, because writing is your profession. It's your career. It's your love. It's your passion. So, however, I have to say, it just shows what a brilliant, creative, imaginative mind you have.
Oh, well, thank you. I do agree that people who have written 1 or 2 books, the first one, I look back at my first 1 or 2 books, they tend to be, wrap a lot more of your own life into them. When you've been coming up with ideas for books for, I'm going to say 35 or 36 books, because there have been some that didn't fly for some reason, that didn't end up being published. You really do learn to make this stuff up. The best I can say is that I had this image in my head of a truck pulling up and offloading a dog and driving away, and somebody's observing this who can come in and pick up the dog and make sure nothing bad happens to him. And it's somebody else's dog. Like, this is not somebody dumping his own dog. It's somebody dumping somebody else's dog. And I just struggled with okay, well, that's interesting, but what kind of a story are you going to put behind that? And eventually, through a process I don't understand any better than anybody else does, I came up with this idea that there's a woman who owns this dog, and the guy who dumps him is her fiance. She has no idea any of this is going on. And the guy who picks him up he feels it's his dog. I mean, he watched somebody abandon the dog, so clearly this is not somebody who wants him. So he doesn't look for the owner. He just adopts the dog and falls completely in love with him. And so when he finds out somebody's looking for the dog, now you've basically got a dog with 2 owners, 2 rightful owners. The woman who never meant to let him go, and the person who, through no fault of his own, selflessly picked him up. And there's a little bit of back and forth tension between whose dog this is going to be, which I thought was an interesting concept, but I didn't think it was enough. So eventually I came around to a point where I realized that these people had a very old history. The young man is only 23. So he was like 4 when he crossed paths with this woman. So she's not going to recognize him and he's not going to remember. But they have a very important, significant aspect of their past that ties them together. But it takes them a long time to figure it out. The reader knows these people are coming back together. They have absolutely no idea. So it's a good thing they have to really struggle over this dog, or they never would have hung out with each other long enough to figure this out. So, and then it goes on to how that will resolve and help both of them with the memory.
This one, as I'm an animal lover, and so I haven't had a chance because we just reconnected again. I'm like, I haven't talked to Catherine. You retweeted something. I love social media. We haven't talked in a long time. I've been really busy. You've been busy. And I tweeted out to you, and I'm like, because you had retweeted something, and I said, thank you. We got to do another interview. It's been a while, and I know you've written other books since we last talked. So I'm really so grateful that you're such a beautiful person, that you do such good, and that you're just a brilliant writer. And I always look forward to talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you when your next book comes out. I'd love for you just to share with the audience, like, what are some maybe last thoughts or ideas or creativity you can put around to how people can just pay it forward and or be a creative writer. I mean, I love the fact that you said, I think a lot of writing isn't just from our own inner experience. I think a lot of it is, like you said, from being, being open enough to being open to your creativity. I think a lot of times we have creativity of ideas or projects or even books, and we're like, oh, I can't do that. Or that's never going to happen, or that won't tie into something. And like you said, it's like a process. You're writing, and then another idea comes up, and all of a sudden you have this beautiful tale that you've created. So you're such a brilliant writer. I'd love for you just to, because I deal with authors and speakers all the time, I'd love for you just to end with a couple bits on paying it forward, or pay it forward, paying it forward. To me, they're one and the same. And just some inspiration for somebody else out there that would like to be a creative writer or start somewhere.
Okay, my answer to both of those is essentially the same, and that would be to be more connected with the present moment. I think the problem when people need help paying it forward, it's almost invariably they're trying to sit home alone and think of an idea of what they will do. I don't recommend that. I recommend paying more attention to the people around you and being more aware of what they might need. I think we kind of shut ourselves down to what people need because we feel like we won't be able to fill that need anyway, because there are so many of them and so few of us. But I think once we decide that we're going to do 3 pay-it-forward favors at some point in the not-too-distant future, then any given need can be the one we choose to fill. And I think the beauty of this potentially, maybe in a small way, I don't know, world-changing idea, is that, we start watching the people around us to see what they need. So I would say don't sit there and try to brainstorm an idea alone in your room. Just watch the people around you more and let a need arise to which you spontaneously say, yep, I got that one. And, as far as the creative writing is concerned, the best I can say is I don't think anybody knows how to make imagination work. This is why people always say to writers, where do your ideas come from? Well, we're like, I don't know. If we knew, you wouldn't be asking us that question because we would have answered it a long time ago to your satisfaction. But the truth of the matter, there's something about imagination that can't be tracked. So my advice is be there when it shows up and make something of it. Make a comfortable space for imagination to come into your life and respond to it. Don't try to make it into something that you can turn on and off with a switch because you probably won't get anywhere with that anyway. Just, be in front of your computer when inspiration strikes and be ready to write things down. So both kind of involved with just coming back more into the moment and not so much saying, gosh, I can't figure this out with my brain, but more just responding to things as they happen. I hope that makes sense. It does to me.
Absolutely. I look at that last little bit that you said, analysis paralysis. And that's what I was talking about earlier. We get so caught up in how are we going to do this? I have to do this. I'm sitting at my computer and I've got to come up with an idea. And so we automatically get in this panic and our brain just goes blank, not get along your creativity. I find too, one of the things I always like to tell people that have people that are talking about this creatively blocked, is literally, like you said, it's not, to me, it's twofold. Yes, it's being in the moment, because being in the moment, I think, is where we have access to everything. And like you said, which I think is an important piece, now everyone has their own choice and beliefs to what they choose to believe spirituality-wise. However, I always say all the time, it's like, I don't know where, like you said, I don't know where these ideas come from. The way I look at it, I'm just this vehicle and this physical body that I'm here. And a lot of times I know stuff, I don't even know why I know the stuff that I know. I'm like, I didn't study that. How do I know that? And I know it's coming from somewhere. Whatever that is, whatever your beliefs are, that I think of it as a piece from that way. And I think the other part of it is that you said we shut down. We've shut down our children. We've forgotten how to play. So one of my favorite phrases in the whole wide world is learning, playing, and growing, because I truly believe, even as adults, that we learn when we play. And if we got more into the spirit of either watching, like you said, being in the moment and really watching children play and see how they just get into this fantasy land and creativity land, and they have no problem doing that. And we literally stop being so serious about ourselves in life and be and take that, like you said, people think it's selfish to actually care. You said a piece along the way at the beginning about sometimes people thinking that it's selfish to be selfish. The reality is, though, if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't take that me time or that time to introspect or be, we can't be there for anybody else. And you're going to miss out on all those creativity moments, the inspirational moments, the imaginational moments. So I think it's a bit of everything that you just said, and I think this all of us being open. How's that sound?
I think you summed it up. I think you didn't even need me.
I always need you. I mean, someone's got to talk about your books. I sure as can't go through
Well, that's true. You can't tell people what my 3 favorites are or whatever.
Yeah, I need you for that. So I thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Make sure you email me when the new one comes out. I'm going to shoot you an email later today.
Oh, that's easy. It's the 2nd of June, which means 3 days from now.
Yay! So I look forward to seeing that and sharing it around social media. And I look forward to having another conversation, and hopefully the cat joins us next time.
Oh, yeah. But he was here saying hi to you. As soon as you turned on record, he's like, okay, I'm leaving now.
Anyways, as usual, everybody, I put together a whole blog post to have all of Catherine's information. Please make sure you go visit Catherine Ryan Hyde, and her website is CATHERINE, Ryan, RYAN, Hyde, HYDE.com. She has all sorts of great things on there, and I really implore, whatever you want to call it, go read her books. They're absolutely fabulous. And I wish everyone a beautiful day. I love bringing you valuable people on that have some fun and spunk and stuff that we can learn from, because I think that's important. And you can always find me at CarlyAlyssaThorne.com, CarlyAlyssaThorne. The blog post will have all of Catherine's information, links, everything you need to know, and the embedded video and podcast. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Oh, my pleasure. I wish the cat had come around, but other than that, great.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.